Hey, we're going to go through the Unit 1 G67 assessment review. The first problem was order of operations, so we got to, of course, go inside the brackets. Now, this is -2 squared, but we really have to think of that as doing the exponents first. So our first step here is we have the outside brackets, 7. We're still multiplying that by a -4. I put the exponent into play, plus 10 in that bracket. Here's the outside bracket, plus 2. Now we can go with inside the brackets. We have a -4 plus 10. These are different signs, so we find the difference, which is 6, and it's a positive 6. So we have 7 times that plus 2. So now we have 7 times 6, so I can go to the outer brackets. That's 42 plus 2, and I misinterpreted this. This is divided by 2. Let me just fix that real quick. My sign's coming down. $42 divided by 2 will be 21. And I don't have my glasses, so we're going to wing it here. Our answer for that problem is 21. This next one, absolute value. Go ahead and do the absolute values first. So this is going to be a -4. 2 minus 6 is a -4, and then we're adding to that. I'll just substitute that 4 in. 4 minus 1, I really have 3 inside those absolute value brackets. So the -4, of course, is just 4 plus 3 equals 7 on this problem here. So just remember that inside the absolute value bars, that's the distance from 0, which is always going to be positive. This next one here, I just need to take and substitute m in. So I'm going to take and put m into here. So now I have a -6. I'm going to multiply that times 12 minus 3. I can go ahead and do the inside brackets first, of course. Order of operations, 12 minus 3 is 9. So I have a -6 here. That's kind of bad 6. Times 9. We have a -54 for an answer. Okay, this next one. Double shot. Looks like I have an equation here. This looks like a one-step equation. So really what I'm looking at, because of the double shot here, is m plus 7 equals a -40. So I had to do that double shot first. Now to get rid of this this 7, I have to subtract 7 from both sides. So now I've got m is equal to 40 minus 7. Now this is really the same as -40 plus a -7. So these are the same signs. So you add and keep. So we have 47, and then we have to keep that negative sign. We actually have a -47 there. You slide that down. Make sure you can see it. -47, and it makes sense. A -47 plus 7 would be a -40. Okay, this one here, we just have to divide by a -2 to get that x isolated. Divide both sides by the -2. These guys, of course, cancel off, leaving us with a positive 1x. 64 divided by a -2 is going to give me 32, and of course, that is negative. So x equals a -32. These ones here we just have to compare. Compare quickly. Let's see, this is a -23 and this is a -25. Well, this one here is more negative like my first wife. This one here is less negative like my current wife. So this one is actually bigger. This is like owing somebody 25 cents. This is like owing them 23 cents. Less negative, so this is greater than. This one here, subtracting negative fractions. Well, you got to find yourself a common denominator. So it looks like we're going to rename these both as 12. So I'll do that quickly. These will be 12s. And it's going to be subtracting. So let's see. If I multiply this times 3, I'll get 12. So the top number is 3 12s. And if I multiply this times 4, I'll get 12, so that top number is 4. So really we have is 3 minus 4. Or if you want to think of it as 3 plus a -4. So we just deal with the numerators here. 3 plus a -4 is a -1/12. That's the answer, a -1/12. All right, flipping to the back side. Now we've got mixed numbers. I highly recommend that you take and put these into improper fractions. So I'm going to rewrite it because it's a little bit easier for me to read them when they're rewritten. So this is minus a minus. So this is actually a double shot here. We're going to be adding 1 1/3 to this -1 1/8. So let's make them both into improper fractions first, and then we'll add them. We'll keep this guy negative here. So 1 times 8 is 8 plus 1, so we have 9/8 there. We have 1 times 3 Let me scroll down so you can see that, I guess. 1 times 3 is 3 plus 1 is, this is 4/3. We still have to have a common denominator here, so I guess I got to rename these guys again. Looks like 24 is going to be my common denominator. So I'm going to make sure this is. So this times 3 would give me 24. This times 3 over here would give me 27/24. And that's right, that's an improper fraction because it was a mixed number. And this guy here, I'm going to have to take it times 8. So I'm going to have to take this guy times 8 too. So 4 times 8, that would give me 32/24. So now I have a negative 27 and a positive 32. So these are different signs. I'm going to find the difference. The difference is 5/24. And is it positive or negative? Well, of course it's positive because this one here has a greater absolute value. It's more positive than that. All right, subtracting decimals. Well, let's take a look at this here. We're actually taking a negative and we're going to subtract another negative. Really what we're doing here is this is like a negative 1 plus, let's just call this a negative half, right? Because this is a negative number and this is a negative number. So we're really going to be adding these two numbers together and it's all going to be negative. So make sure you line up the decimal when you do any adding or subtracting with decimals. This is 1.234. This is 0.0. Ooh, did that wrong? It's 0.315. 4 and 5 is 9. 3 and 1 is 4. 2 and 3 is 5. I got my decimal in here, and this is 1. So it's a negative 1.549. So Alcon would say negative 1.549. Double check my work here. That looks handy dandy. This here's a one-step equation. I got to isolate the n, so get rid of this 16. I'm going to add 16 to both sides. Now we've got n divided by 3 is equal to 18 plus 16, which is 34. Okay, so now I've got n divided by 3 is 34. This is division. I got to get rid of that. I'll multiply both sides by 3. These guys cross off, leaving me n. I've isolated. 34 times 3 is 102. 102. So n is equal to 102. Let me just see if it makes sense. 102 divided by 3 minus 16 equals 18. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, these are the two hardest problems on the page. Everybody missed them on the first go around because they're not as punctual as me in terms of distributing things. So please, when you take this test, do all the work. 3 times 2x. I got to distribute it out twice here. So 3 times 2x, that's 6x, and it is negative because it's a negative times a positive. Now I have a negative 3 times a negative 3. That's going to be a positive 9. I'm going to add to that 4 times a negative 2, which is a negative 8. I'm going to add that. I'm going to add to that a 4 times x, which is just 4x. And then we've got this plus 3 at the end. Now we can look at combining some like terms on this guy here. So let's see. We've got negative 6x and we've got positive 4x. So that leaves me a negative 2x when I combine these two. I've got 9 and negative 8. Well, 9 and a negative 8, that leaves me 1. But then I've got these 3 too. I can add that. So I actually have 4 when I reconcile or add up those guys there. So it's a negative 2x plus 4 on that one here. Okay, this next one here, again, we're going to combine some like terms here. Let's just combine these v's. We've got 3 positives and 5 negatives, so that's a minus 2v. Now we've got 18 and 22 I can combine on this side. Well, that's 18 and a minus 22. That really leaves me with a minus 4, and it all equals 12. Well, isolate the variable. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So now I've got that minus 2v is equaling 16. I'm going to divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. Now these negatives cross off, leaving me with v isolated, and 16 divided by 2 is 8. And of course that's 16 divided by a negative 2. That's a negative 8 on that one there. All right, slide down here. What do I need to know to multiply positive and negative numbers? If you have an odd number of negatives, your quotient or product will be positive. Oops. Hey-oh. If you have an odd number, it's going to be negative. If you have an even number of negative symbols, when you multiply or divide, your quotient or your product will be positive. So even number, positive; odd number, negative. 3 rules. You need to know them. First of all, you got to know the double shot. The double shot says 4 minus a minus 3 is really the same as 4 plus a plus 3. It's 7. The next one, 2. You have to know that if you have the same signs, you add in keep. Add and keep, I call it. You have negative 4 minus 3. This is really the same as negative 4 plus a negative 3, which equals a negative 7. You just add the two together and keep the sign. The tough one is number 3, the difference. If you have different signs, diff signs, you need to find the difference. Find the diff. And then keep the sign of the number with a larger absolute value. Let me just do a quick example here. So we have 6 minus 8. Well, this is a positive 6 plus a negative 8. So we have different signs here. Find the difference. The difference between 6 and 8 is equal to 2. Then 8 has a larger absolute value than 6. So we keep that negative sign. It's more negative than it is positive. It's a negative 2. Thanks for listening.